A lot of folks I know, they don't like to hear the truth. They would prefer if I don't sing and remain mute.
Fellow members, we have heard your concerns regarding the matter relating to the disciplinary actions taken against our former members. We hope that this evening that we will take the time to go through those charges that we were not privileged to share within the public domain. I wish to share as well as members that we are all equal, that every single member within our party deserves utmost respect and dignity. Regardless if you're a member for 40 years, 20 years, a year, we should treat every member equally such that every member understands that we must obey the constitution of this party and conventions that allows the party to flourish the way that it has continued to flourish in the past, the future, and of course to ensure that our future generation has the foundation that is required. Brothers and sisters, we have received the calls, the emails. Some members have actually come to us at headquarters with tears in their eyes, wondering, was it too punitive, the actions that we took? What was going on? Why didn't you tell us before? But remember, our internal matters must remain internal. We do not put our private information out in the public for various reasons, because we are a party of integrity and of course transparency, but we felt the need to share that information with our members so that no propaganda will allow you to be deceived. We are sharing with you the factual information, not emotions, but empirical data as to what transpired, the process which took place, and why we are where we are today. But notwithstanding, we hope at the end of our presentation that you will understand why the Disciplinary Council and the General Council took the position that they did. We again wish to thank you for your time, and we are here right now, and our acting president will share with you what these charges are, and you will know exactly what transpired and why the party took the decision that it did.
Thank you, Comrade Dujon. Fellow members, we are sharing with you this afternoon the process of the complaint made to the disciplinary committee against our former General Secretary, Steve Blackett, and former President, Dr. Ronnie Yearwood. I would like for members to understand that the process took over 2 months to be completed, and we made particular efforts to keep the complaints internal and private and confidential. The members were invited to their first disciplinary hearing around the end of May 2024. They did not attend that hearing. Because of the court injunction, the disciplinary committee took the decision not to call hearings during the court case. After the case was withdrawn on the 23rd of July, a second hearing was scheduled for the 6th of August 2024. Neither Mr. Blackett or Dr. Yearwood attended those meetings to answer to the charges laid against them. However, the disciplinary committee met and they heard the charges made again by the two complainants against Dr. Yearwood and Mr. Blackett. So I will read out to you now the charges which were laid against Mr. Steve Blackett, former General Secretary. That you, Steve Blackett, as General Secretary of the Democratic Labour Party at a meeting of the General Council convened on the 4th day of April 2024 in breach of the rules and/or directives of the General Council, the particulars of which are as follows. 1. Misleading the General Council on actions regarding the political leader by failing, refusing, or neglecting to disclose correspondence to the General Secretary that tended to disclose otherwise. 2. Deliberately withholding correspondence sent by a member to the General Secretary, knowing and/or intending that such failure, refusal, negligence would be detrimental to the image and standing of the member, and thereby bring the member's office into disrepute and being injurious to the principles and general well-being of the party. Further charges. On the 17th day of April 2024, as General Secretary of the Democratic Labour Party, without reasonable cause and in breach of Rule 23(1) and 27 of the party's constitution, and the long-established practice and convention of the party that notice of meetings should be given no less than 7 days prior to such meetings, did the following. On the 17th day of April, issued a notice of a meeting to all members of the DLP to be held at the George Street Auditorium on the 21st day of April 2024, being less than 7 days' notice. On the 21st day of April 2024, as the General Secretary of the Democratic Labour Party and a speaker at the meeting, spoke and conducted yourself at the said meeting in a manner and under circumstances that were injurious to the interests, principles, and general well-being of the party, which would be a breach of Rule 34(3) of the Members' Passport. The full particulars are publicly accusing a member of being untruthful with the intention to impugn his character, using language derogatory and insulting to the character of the political leader by making the statement, "He is a liar, he is a stranger to the truth," using language of an inflammatory nature, knowing and intending that persons attending the said meeting would be incited to be disruptive to the said meeting and were consequently so disruptive. 4. Introducing a matter not on the agenda for which the said meeting was not constituted, for and knowing and intending of being reckless as to bring the said meeting into discord and disruption by purporting to move a vote of no confidence in the political leader and leader of the opposition, Mr. Ralph Thorne. The Executive Council or General Council were not notified or were aware of or gave sanction for such a move. 5. Giving an interview to the media on matters of an internal nature without the prior authorization of any of the governing councils of the DLP, knowing and intending that such comments would be published, and knowing and intending that such published comments would be injurious to the interests, reputation, and general well-being of the party, namely, since Mr. Thorne's admission to the party, the institution has experienced untold rancor, turmoil, contention, and confusion. That you, Steve Blackett, on the 8th day of May 2024, as the General Secretary of the Democratic Labour Party, without the prior authorization of any of the governing councils of the party, disclosed to the Nation newspaper matters of an internal nature, knowing and intending that such comments would be published, and knowing and intending or reckless thereto that such published comments would be injurious to the interests, reputation, and general well-being of the party, the particulars of which are I am going to stay silent on that matter. The resolution is still in play. Comrades, these are the charges against Mr. Steve Blackett, former General Secretary. The disciplinary committee met and deliberated on these charges for over 6 hours after hearing testimony from the complainants and also from witnesses. They came to a unanimous decision that these charges warranted discipline and made a recommendation to the General Counsel for the expulsion of Mr. Steve Blackett. And of course, the General Counsel at its meeting on the 16th of August heard these complaints and the recommendation from the disciplinary committee and voted unanimously for the expulsion of Mr. Steve Blackett. Next, I will turn to the charges against former President Dr. Ronnie Yearwood. And many of the charges are similar to the ones which were laid against Mr. Steve Blackett. And the same procedure was followed for these charges. I again repeat that Mr. Yearwood failed to turn up to the disciplinary committee meetings to give his own side to these allegations. And as a result, the disciplinary committee heard the complaints again by the complainants and also the witness testimony and deliberated for again possibly over 6 hours and returned a verdict. And I now read the charges. That you, Dr. Ronnie Yearwood, on the 21st day of April 2024, as President of the Democratic Labour Party and the Chairman of a meeting, convened and conducted the said meeting in a manner and under circumstances that were injurious to the interests, principles, and general well-being of the party. See Rule 34.3 of the Members' Passport. The full particulars are: failing to intervene as the General Secretary, Mr. Steve Blackett, accused a member of the party of being untruthful in matters relating to correspondence passing between the office of General Secretary and the political leader, in spite of there being correspondence to the contrary, and which was addressed and settled as a matter arising at a General Council meeting. 2. Failing to intervene as the General Secretary, Mr. Steve Blackett, used language derogatory and insulting to the character of the said Mr. Thorne, namely, he is a liar, he is a stranger to the truth, knowing that such language and or intending and or being reckless to the likelihood that such language would incite persons attending to be disruptive of the said meeting, and they were consequently so disrupted. Failing to intervene as the General Secretary, Mr. Steve Blackett, as a speaker, used language of an inflammatory nature, knowing and or intending or of being reckless to the likelihood that persons attending the said meeting would be incited to be disruptive to the said meeting and were consequently so disruptive. Failing to intervene as the General Secretary, Mr. Steve Blackett, as a speaker, introduced a matter not on the agenda of the meeting and for which the said meeting was not constituted, namely a vote of no confidence in the political leader, knowing and or intending or being reckless to the likelihood that persons attending the said meeting would be incited to be disruptive of the said meeting and were consequently so disruptive. Failing as the President of the DLP and Chairman of the meeting held on the 21st of April 2024 to issue a statement disassociating yourself or the DLP from the statements made in an interview given to the media by the said Steve Blackett. As General Secretary of the DLP, knowing and or intending that such comments should be published unchallenged and that such published comments would be injurious to the interest, reputation, and general well-being of the party. Namely, since Mr. Thorne's admission to the party, the institution has experienced untold rancor, turmoil, contention, and confusion. Failing, refusing, or neglecting as chairman of a meeting held on the 21st of April 2024 to act in a timely manner or at all to take charge of the said meeting at the first instance of disruption and therefore being complicit in conduct that injured the interests, reputation, and well-being of the party. That you, Dr. Ronnie Yearwood, on the 8th day of August 2024, convened a purported meeting of the General Council and presided over the said meeting as chairman and conducted the said meeting in a manner and under circumstances that were injurious to the interests, principles, and general well-being of the party. See Rule 34.3 of the party's passport. And the full particulars are: 1. Knowing that the notice of the said meeting was given by Mr. Stephen Blackett, who he knew ought to have known was suspended from all his duties as General Secretary of the DLP from the 9th day of May 2024 and remained suspended at the material time and therefore had no such authority to give notice of any meeting of any organs of the party, and that the said meeting was therefore in all the circumstances unlawful. Knowing that while he was suspended from his office of president, he has no authority to chair any meetings of the various organs or committees of the party in such a capacity. See Rule 22.1 of the DLP's Constitution. Attending and purporting to preside as chairman of the said unlawful meeting held on the 8th of August 2024, directly contravening the decision of the General Council of the DLP as the highest decision-making body outside of its annual conference, made on the 16th day of May 2024, which suspended him from all his official duties as president of the DLP. 5. Facilitating and encouraging comments in the said meeting that were injurious to the objectives of the DLP as set out generally in Rule 3 of the Constitution and more specifically Rule 3, 11, 12, and 13, namely the proposal that the property of the DLP at Kennington, George Street, St. Michael, be appropriated for the purposes of a new political party to be established and titled the Democratic League. That the said meeting amounted to a conspiracy to abolish and or eliminate and or create a competing political party to the DLP using the property and the resources of the DLP. Comrades, these are the charges which were laid against former President Dr. Ronnie Yearwood. And again, the disciplinary committee heard the complaint raised at its meeting. They also examined evidence and witness testimony, and they deliberated and came to a unanimous decision that Dr. Ronnie Yearwood should be expelled from the party. They made their recommendation to the General Council, and the General Council at its meeting on the 16th of August voted to expel Dr. Ronnie Yearwood from the Democratic Labour Party. These, comrades, are the charges laid against the two former members of the Democratic Labour Party, Mr. Steve Blackett and Dr. Ronnie Yearwood. And as you can appreciate, these charges were extensive and warranted the decision made by the disciplinary committee and the General Council.
Thank you, Comrade. This damning report really tells us and signals why it is important that we as members of the Democratic Labour Party stand in solidarity with the General Council and the Disciplinary Council. It is important that we understand that we must defend and protect the image of our party. We must also remember that the image and reputation of our party is what keeps our foundation together. It is important that we as members defend our party in every facet. So when we are hearing certain types of claims, untruths are being made in the public domain, we understand now what those charges were and why the Disciplinary Council and the General Council made the decision that they made. You left those responsibilities in our hands, and we are here to continue to serve the party, its members, and the wider Barbadian populace. Members, we must remember we are a political party, an organization which has structures that has been there for 68 years. So as a result, we must always remember that these foundations were laid so that we can do and perform our duties to the best of our abilities. Members, continue to support us, continue to encourage us. We need your strength, we need your encouragement, because the task ahead is not an easy one. It's never an easy one. It was not easy for our Disciplinary Council, nor was it easy for the General Council. These are our members. These are persons that we worked with, that we saw, that we voted for. And as we've seen, the charges against them, their conduct, their behavior. The Democratic Labour Party, we uphold accountability and transparency. We're not the Labour Party that allows members and the cabinet to do as they please. There is structure, there is discipline, and we must do things the right and ethical way. And members, we look forward in seeing you next week where we conduct the business of the party. And we hope that as of today, that you understand why we have to keep that confidential information internally. We thank you very much, and we look forward in seeing you next weekend at our annual conference.
I go sing the truth. I go sing the truth. I can't substitute a life for the gospel truth. I go sing the truth. I go sing the truth. I go rally round my roots and tell them the gospel truth.